Hello and welcome to the Tribute to Life webinar, our 7th webinar that we've been running to talk to people all over the world about organ donation and transplantation. I'm Lucinda Barry, the Chief Executive Officer of the Organ and Tissue Authority here in Australia. So we lead Australia's national program on organ donation and tissue donation for transplantation. And it's fabulous to be here. But most importantly, we have a couple of very special guest presenters tonight, and very much looking forward to hearing from them about their experiences with regional campaigns and promotion around organ donation. So tonight we've got Catherine McKeowan, who's from Belfast in Northern Ireland, and we can't wait to hear from you, Catherine, on your experience there. And we have Dr Avnish Seth from India. He's in New Delhi, and he's been championing organ donation for a long time in India, as well as being a transplant specialist himself with that. So the plan is that we'll hear from both the speakers, and then we will go to a Q&A. And if I can encourage you to use the Q&A function on Zoom, that will really help us at the end to have the conversation. But we're just so lucky to be able to have this opportunity to hear from both our speakers on the positives and the challenges, and how they've been able to try and engage with the population around organ donation and raise awareness and educate the community. And these are the things that we can all learn from. So whether you're listening and you already have quite an established program in your country and you do have national campaigns, or whether you're in a smaller Commonwealth country that really hasn't started to do that or is looking for new ideas, I think we can all learn as we go with this webinar. So I'm really excited to be chairing the webinar and hearing from both of our speakers. So our first speaker, Catherine, as I said, she's based in Belfast in Northern Ireland, and she is the Organ Donation Promotion Manager at the Public Health Agency there. She's got a long background in marketing and communications. She's been in this role for 2 years, but prior to that, been working in the corporate world, doing sport as well in marketing and communications and higher education with that. So over to you, Catherine, and make sure everybody, as you go through, write your questions down into that Q&A, and then that way we can, at the end, come together and have a chat about their talks. So thanks, Catherine.
Thanks, Lucinda. That's great. I'll get my slides operational. There we are. Good morning, everybody, and hello from a relatively sunny Northern Ireland. It's morning time with us here, and I'm delighted to be here this morning to give you an overview really of my work here in Northern Ireland in the area of organ donation promotion. So as Lucinda mentioned, my role is Organ Donation Promotion Manager. And as Lucinda said, please do feel free to pop your questions into the Q&A functions, and we're looking forward to a good chat at the end. So really, I'm going to have a look through my role and the approach to my role, and then delve a little bit deeper into the actual activities in terms of public information campaigns, outreach and engagement work, various initiatives and projects, and then some regional results. My role was created in 2018 from a Department of Health statutory duty to promote organ donation and transplantation. And I was very, very pleased and very privileged to be appointed to the role in July 2020. The only downside to that would be taking up a new role in the middle of a global pandemic. So unfortunately, I still haven't met everybody face to face, but I've certainly had plenty of FaceTime with everybody. So it's been great to be able to continue the role as effectively as possible in a virtual landscape. As Lucinda said, I'm based at the Public Health Agency in Belfast. They're the regional organisation for health protection and health and social wellbeing improvement. So it's very appropriate that I would sit within the PHA and sit within the communications team there, but I would report very much into the Department of Health in my role. So the purpose of my role is to promote organ donation and transplantation in Northern Ireland through a coordinated, tailored and sustained approach to education and awareness. And by doing so, to encourage positive actions and behaviours. Really, that's the same aim that we're all working towards. But I do want to point out at this stage that this has not started with the appointment of me to the role. It has been ongoing for a number of years, both through the Public Health Agency and through a number of our partners, our charity partners, our local hospital trusts, our organ donation committees. They've all been working really hard over the recent years. But the purpose of my role was to really coordinate all of that really good activity into a more sustained and longer term programme, and to really put a more of a national perspective around it and really enhance the initiatives, really with the ultimate goal, as we know, of making a sort of a cultural shift in society, making organ donation the cultural norm and an expected part of conversation and end-of-life care in society. So I just wanted to touch around some of the structures that I work within, but it's not really for me to work within these. They really exist for me to be able to maximise my role and what I can achieve in my role, so that I'm really embedded as deeply and widely as possible across all of our sort of partners and stakeholders, that I would call them, our organ donation family. So I would report in at a sort of a more formal and higher level. I would report in quarterly to an organ donation steering group, which is chaired by the Department of Health. I then, very closely aligned to that, would chair a quarterly charity and stakeholder subgroup, two of which members sit on the steering group. So that's a really important mechanism for two-way flow of communication from our charity and stakeholders through to the higher level planning and coordination group. I also attend quarterly Healthcare Trust Organ Donation Committee meetings. We've got 4 main trusts, not including our ambulance service trust, across Northern Ireland. So those are really important meetings for me to attend, where I can update all of the members on my activity and my plans, but also I can nicely ask for favours and participation and support for initiatives. And I get really, really good support from the organ donation committees. There is also a bi-monthly NHSBT devolved communications meeting, and I find those really useful. I can draw on the expertise and the experience and the learnings from other communications teams in the other regions in the UK, you know, about initiatives, about campaigns, about insights and findings. What's maybe worked in one region, we can certainly look to apply in other regions. Those are really, really beneficial. Our local organ donation services team, our specialist nurses who are embedded in all of our healthcare trusts here, we would have a monthly meeting where I can update and stay really close to our specialist nurses, who are really the vital front line of our organ donation service delivery here. And that's where I can really glean insights and participation really on that donation and the donor family side, and really tease out that angle of donation. Then for my own personal support, I would attend weekly managers meetings within the Public Health Agency, so I can stay really close on a day-to-day basis with communications, publications, corporate affairs, that type of thing, to support me on a day-to-day basis. And I also attend charity partner meetings as and when I'm invited. So I've put all that down. It's quite dry, but it just lets you see how I operate and how I can really maximize my work from the structures that are in place to support it all. And it's really, really important. I don't think I'd be able to do half as much without all of that structure in place. And as that previous slide will give you a flavour of, really the approach to my role is all about partnership working through and through. It's all about stakeholder engagement and collaboration, staying in close contact and regular communications, attending those meetings, finding out what's going on and making sure that they're aware of what I'm doing and how they can help me. So it's all about channel enhancement, using networks and those additional channels to really get additional exposure for my work, and really amplifying my messaging and my content. I'll give you some examples as we go through the presentation. So two-way flow of communication and two-way flow of promotion of our initiatives. So I can find out what's going on in the general area, and that allows me to develop new partnerships. Most weeks I will have a new contact, I'll have awareness of an initiative, or I'll get an idea about an initiative that I can help to develop. So it just really, it's just a really good approach to making my work go further and my budget go further, because a lot of this enables quite low cost amplification of our messaging. So drilling down into some examples of the work then, in terms of public information campaigns, we have recently run a campaign which we call our We Chat campaign in Northern Ireland. Everything's we. We have a wee cup of tea and a wee chat. So that was very much playing on our sort of our local colloquialisms here. So the campaign had actually run before I came into post in 2019 and into 2020, and it performed very, very well, and it really landed with our audiences here. So it still very much had great currency and relevance. So we ran it again in 2021. And the benefit of having a small region and a small population here in Northern Ireland is that our media and our audience targeting is quite compact. So we can usually run a Northern Ireland wide campaign fairly easily. And last year in June, we ran on TV, radio, and across digital and social channels. What we have here is, as I mentioned, the We Chat. So it's all about the importance of talking about organ donation, but we wanted to take that a step further and really put a face to that. So Orla was the face of our campaign. Orla was a kidney recipient. So she tells the story so much more easily in her own words. It creates that, it created an emotional connection. She basically was explaining how her organ donor saved her life and how the conversation around donation and signing the register is vitally important. So the campaign, the rerun, was extremely successful as well. It was exposed over 13 million times, with around 88% of our Northern Ireland adults seeing or hearing the campaign at least once. So those are great figures. In terms of the website activity, that was one of the main calls to action to find out more to register online. We could see a huge increase in the visitors and the activity online in terms of users, sessions and page views across the month of the activity the campaign ran. And how that translated into individual page activity. Generally our top 2 pages would be much the same across the year, but over the campaign period, we saw the register complete, the how to register and the talk about decision pages coming right up the rankings, which was a really good indication that our campaign message was clear and was landing with our audience, because we wanted people to go online to register and to share their decision, to find out how to share their decision. So that came true in the results. Then in terms of organ donor registrations, again, the call to action was via the website to sign up. So again, that was where we saw our biggest spike in registrations, was through our website channel. So again, that really evidenced to us that the campaign was clear and it was landing. Yes, and then this is an example of how our partner support really kicks into action then. So this is just a sample of one of our healthcare trusts in the Western area, and then one of our local councils. We've got 11 local councils in Northern Ireland, so they're all mobilised through my communications and updates to them and provision of assets to them. So they either do their own native posts or they would share a lot of our content. So this gives us just a really, really good additional level of exposure for any of our activity. big focus at the minute is around law change here in Northern Ireland. In February just this year, the Northern Ireland Assembly approved our organ and tissue donation deemed consent bill, and it received royal assent last month. So we are now working on an implementation period of just under a year, where we're going to be educating and raising awareness of the law change prior to it going live next spring. So some of you may be aware of young Dr McKeowan. So our law change is going to be called Dahi's Law, and that's in recognition of a little 5-year-old boy here in Northern Ireland who has been waiting for the gift of a new heart for over 3 years. And he has campaigned, him and his family have campaigned tirelessly to promote organ donation and an opt-out law change, along with all of our other charity partners and stakeholders. So that's been a really positive development in the last few months here. So my work has been focusing on preparing our campaign. We're going live with it in just over a week and a half. So I'm not giving away too much, but it's all focused around the notion of being a lifesaver. So we're announcing the law change, but we're explaining why the law is changing, why it's important. And the conversation is also a very big element of this campaign. So it's all about being a lifesaver. And we're breaking our campaign activity down into 2 main phases. And this is similar to other approaches. And again, sharing our information and experiences with the other regions. This has been a very useful approach in other regions, breaking our campaign down into 2 main phases, preparing people over the next year for the fact that the law will be changing, what that means, what their choices are, how they can find out more or activate their choice. So we'll run several bursts of activity coordinated around our main promotional activities throughout the year, for example, Organ Donation Week and a local organ donation discussion day here in Northern Ireland. And then in the early part of next year, we'll really ramp that campaign up using more mass media channels such as television and household mailings. So we really want to prepare people for the point of the law changing so that they're aware and they know what to expect. So from April next year, we'll switch over to the fact that the law has changed and really continuing with sustained activity to help that message cut through to as many people as possible in Northern Ireland. As part of the planning around this campaign, there's a number of other elements. So we'll be doing a media launch on the day of the campaign with young Dahi. So that will be pushed out to all of our media channels. And then we will also be distributing a communications toolkit to all of our partners and stakeholders. That means that everybody has everything at their fingertips that they need to help support us in spreading the word of this campaign, both at the point of launch and across the campaign period. So that will have all of the dates, it will have all of our graphics, our website, e-zine banners, email signatures, PowerPoint templates, other supporting assets such as animations, videos, posters, flyers, print ads. So everything can just be lifted and used as much or as little as anybody is able to support us with. So that's really a flavour of some of our public information campaigns, which would be our paid for activity. Other elements of that will include, sort of paid partnerships, media partnerships, commercial partnerships. So there's other sort of paid elements to that, but that's our main campaign activity. Another big portion of my role is around outreach and engagement, and with the forthcoming law change, that really is ramping up significantly. So this is where we would really be looking at more of our earned sort of little or no cost activity through the use of all of our stakeholders and partners that I identified on the initial slide. So that's really an ongoing and an evolving plan, and it's utilizing all of those networks and channels and constantly developing new relationships and initiatives, as I've already mentioned. So I have a master schedule that's my go-to every day, and that lists all of the organizations, all of the networks, the groups and the contacts, but it's also broken down by audience. So I will have tabs for youth, older people, faith groups, BAME communities. So I can really either blanket a communication to all of our audiences, or I can be very specific to tailored activities for particular audience as well. And certainly young people is a very big audience for us here in Northern Ireland. I also have an events and a presentation schedule, so it's very important for me to be getting out and about directly in front of groups, in front of communities, be that at a general population event, or be that, you know, a specific presentation to a specific group or an organisation. And I also have a number of channels for dissemination. So that would be both hard copy or digital information. How am I getting that out to the people on the ground, to the grassroots of society, so as many people as possible are seeing the information? I've conducted a communications needs assessment with target audiences. So that was a really, really good engagement activity. It was a simple survey where I really wanted to find out their knowledge of organ donation, their knowledge of the law change, what sort of materials they would welcome, how they want to be communicated with. So that has then allowed me to prepare those materials, be that print, be it online, be it translations. And I'm now in the process of preparing to get that all rolled out in relation to the law change messaging. So I'll be cascading that through all of our channels. I'll be doing information sessions, I'll be distributing flyers, posters, etc. So just to give you a flavour of the dissemination channels that I'm working through. So our healthcare trusts, obviously they will have hospital sites, and we can utilise those, not so much recently, but hopefully going forward as COVID restrictions allow, we'll be able to have sort of information displays or potentially staffed information stands on hospital sites. We also have networks of our GP practices and our community pharmacies across Northern Ireland that we can distribute materials to. Working with our local councils, as I mentioned, there's 11 different local councils with a number of venues, leisure centres, etc., high footfall venues. Working with our charities and our community and voluntary groups, again, to get out around the local areas at local events with local distribution opportunities. For example, our library venues across Northern Ireland, those can all be tapped into, and we'll also be working on constantly pursuing other commercial opportunities through the likes of shopping centres, supermarkets, again, those high footfall type of venues, and other business communities and networks such as our Chamber of Commerce. And then in terms of events and presentations, there's a lot of opportunities that I can create or that I can join in on. So that will, as mentioned, be anything from, in March there, a sports event targeting youth at a local school, or tomorrow I'll be presenting to a business community group, and then next month I will be attending a very big event in Northern Ireland, probably targeting around 100,000 people over the course of a 4-day event at the Balmoral Show. So that's a big general population event. And then I've got other festivals and things that I can attend, which will target our BAME communities. We've got clinical events. We've got three conferences coming to Belfast this year, which is fantastic. So we'll be in attendance at those. And again, our international air show, our marathon, so big volume events. I'll be there. And through the likes of our organ donation committees and our charity partners, I can also ask for assistance as I feel is needed to help staff and attend these events. So it really is a partnership approach to getting out in front of people. We would run a number of initiatives here as well. And of course, Organ Donation Week is the big one in everybody's calendar in all of the regions in September. We also have a local organ donation discussion day in December here. And then I'll just chat about our schools resources, which we're working on. So in terms of Organ Donation Week, there's a lot of activity goes on at a national level, which is brilliant, and it's really great to be involved in that. And we're provided with really good assets and toolkits to support that, which we really get behind. But we also, and I suppose this is where my role comes into its own, really enhance that and develop our own local initiatives So we ran a big assembly last organ donation week, which was a virtual assembly for all of our sort of year 14, 6th year pupils in schools across Northern Ireland. So we had a well-known local host and a local transplant surgeon. So that was a really good, engaging way just to get that engagement with our schools and keep that contact going. We also created a video feature. You'll see there little Indy. She had a liver transplant at just 19 days old, which saved her life. So that was a brilliant feature, and that got tremendous amount of engagement across the week. And in terms of more school activity, we ran an art competition for primary school children, which enabled them, working with our friends, the Orgamites. They provided us with a lovely template. So the winner was selected, and they were then produced into large format outdoor poster site in Belfast. And then we were able to get a little bit of PR with our health minister and the winning site. So just lots of little initiatives like that. We ran a multimedia competition for our post-primary pupils, where they storyboarded a animation to promote organ donation on social media, which students in Ulster University then brought to life. And those animations were promoted across Organ Donation Week. We worked with a number of local influencers as well. So really just approaching them with branded coffee mugs, branded cupcakes was all about them filming a little video support package, all about talking about Organ Donation Week and why. And that got us extra reach of over 200,000 on Instagram, which again was a tremendous and relatively easy way to really enhance our reach. We participate, as always, in the organ donation building light-ups, and working with the National Trust and all of our partners, we lit up a number of key landmarks, which was brilliant. And then as ever, we support our organ donation committees and our charity partner initiatives across the week, and attending the likes of college fair. So it's really trying to pull together all of the opportunities into one big plan for Organ Donation Week and really maximising that opportunity. And this is really just a bit more detail around how we amplify our campaign launch or our organ donation activity. So working through all of our healthcare trust communications teams, all of the 11 different council communication teams, our charity subgroup, our organ donation committees, the full health and social care network and Northern Ireland civil service channels, both internal and external. We work with an umbrella community and voluntary sector organisation here who speak directly to all of those grassroots organisations on the ground. And then all of our other stakeholders, such as our services, our police, our fire, our ambulance and prison services, all are supportive and all carry and amplify our messaging. Colleges and universities and our sports sector here is extremely supportive and extremely proactive in supporting organ donation as well. And really over the week, just our top 5 partner activity resulted in an extra reach of just under 600,000 on Twitter alone. So again, that's really good example of how that activity can get you massive amounts of reach, but for very little cost, no cost, and not too much effort either. And the same with Organ Donation Discussion Day. Again, it's really important for us to create a feature and a bit of a hook for the day. So another video feature was a young boy, Laurie, who unfortunately passed away, but was able to donate his organs and save lives. And that was all about his parents, who were so immensely proud of their son and what he'd been able to go on to save lives. And again, this is a photo of young Dahi that I referred to earlier. So obviously he is still waiting for his gift of a new heart. So in terms of a media feature, Dahi was posting his letter to Santa, where he also includes his wish for that new heart. Donate for Dahi is the campaign, and they work as I mentioned, a lot of campaigning for organ donation. They struck up a very successful partnership with Belfast Giants, our local ice hockey team here, and that has gone from strength to strength since our first event back in December there. And as usual, I would create a package of social assets and an information sheet for all of our partners, which I cascade in advance of that initiative. touching on our schools resources, I'd said that our schools and our young people are a really, really important audience for us, because they really are the change makers. They have such enthusiasm and interest in the topic. So we are developing resources for teachers by teachers. We have a working group made up of teachers who generally have a personal experience or have been impacted by organ donation and transplantation in some shape or form, or they're just really, really passionate, enthusiastic about the topic. So it's brilliant to have such a great working group of teachers who span primary and post-primary and our 16 plus college age range. So our resources will cover the span of the education journey from primary to post-primary to 16 plus. And they will be a baseline resource, and there'll be a lot of supporting materials such as supporting videos, but there'll also be options for extension activities for those teachers who have a bit more time or have a particular interest in the topic. We have support from our Department of Education, who will assist in providing direction and input. We'll then move to a clinical review and some teacher proofing before piloting those this coming organ donation week in September.
So Catherine, we've only got probably a minute left.
Okay.
That's okay.
So some of our regional results for all of this activity is the very positive attitudes to organ donation here in Northern Ireland. 90% of people support organ donation, and 7 out of 10 feel we should all register to be donors. And we can see how our general population surveys since 2013 have been really of an upward trend since, and it's great to see that. Discussing our decisions is also very important, as we know, and again, those have been on an upward trend, and that's really important because that feeds into consent rates. So our consent rates generally are in and around a regional comparison, but in recent years, since 2021, they have started to take a good upward turn. And there would be reasons for that, potentially just a peak. But we would also like to think that the promotional activity, the exposure of the law change has all contributed to that as well. And again, our organ donor register figures, we've got 51% of our population have registered. And again, that is a constantly upward trend, which we're really pleased to see. That finishes me off there just in time.
Fantastic. Thank you, Catherine, for that really informative session. And there's a few questions that have come in, so I look forward to us being able to chat about those after we have heard from our next speaker, who is Dr Avnish Seth, who's a transplant hepatologist in India. He has a very impressive CV. So I'm just going to give a few highlights, but just to acknowledge the drive and dedication of Avnish in India to really make a difference in relation to transplantation. Whilst in the armed forces, he set up liver transplantation 15 years ago, which is such an inspiration. He has done numerous areas of work to actually increase transplant within hospital systems. In his last sector that he was working in at the 18 Fortis hospitals, he was able to implement a donation program there, and he is now currently setting up organ donation in the Manipur group of hospitals as head of the Manipur organ sharing and transplant. In addition to that, he's a well-published author, and he's the lead author in the joint consensus statement on organ donation after circulatory death in India, which was published this year. So it's fabulous to have you come and talk on this webinar, and we look forward to hearing your presentation, which will not only focus on the areas of promotion that you've been involved in, but on India as a whole, and he's also on the Apex committee, member for the NOTO training committee. So welcome, and we can't wait to hear about your experience in India now that we've heard about Northern Ireland. So thank you.
Thank you, Lucinda, for those kind words. I'll try to share my screen now. So can we view the screen?
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's a pleasure and a privilege for me to be here today to share some of the work that we have done in the country in this field. And if we see the GODT website, we find that India is now doing more than 12,000 transplants in a year, which is third in the world after US and China. Almost 80% of these are living donor liver and kidney transplants. And if we see the disease organ donation, our rate is pretty poor at less than 1 per million population. And the reason for that primarily is because most of our organ donation work is confined to the south and west. You can see this map here, the one in green, the south and west, that is where 1/3 of the country is doing most of the work for all of the country. The colors in white in the center, some work is going on, but the ones in orange and light green are largely initiated. So a lot has to be done. Having said that, we do more than 700 deceased donors in a year, which again, by absolute numbers, does figure in the top 15. And the reason for this is that we've had some specific awareness campaigns over the last 15 years, which I'll be sharing with you. Our Prime Minister touched upon organ donation in his monthly talk to the nation, which is called Man Ki Baat, and that was very heartening for all of us. And our health minister and the chief ministers of most of our states at every opportunity talk about organ donation. And you'll agree with me that this is one area where this has to start from the top, and then it really reaches out nicely to the masses. So we have the support of the leaders of the country. Since 2018, we have been able to introduce organ pledging in driving license. If anybody applies for a new license or goes for a renewal of a license, they have an opportunity to pledge their organs. And this is now available in quite a few states in the country. A need was felt, Catherine touched about it in her talk also, that we should start educating the population on organ donation right from school days. And we did a study actually, which we presented in the ISODP in Seoul, where we looked at 11-year-old children from standard 6 in a public school in Delhi. And we found that just with a few lessons, they were completely abreast of what was required to be known about brain death, organ donation, etc. So 11-year-olds were also smart enough to understand this. And now, from 10th standard, which is actually about 15-year-olds in India, organ donation has been included in their standard curriculum. And to the left, if you see, that is the National Council of Educational Research and Training. The chapter is on life processes. And this is all across the country, and some states have their individual chapters also based on science, etc. So we have it introduced in the school. This took a lot of effort by a lot of people, but finally it's great to see it actually happen. I actually passed my medical school, I did my MD, and then I did my doctorate, but unfortunately never heard about organ donation. And we were all very keen that this gets introduced into the medical school training. And again, very happy to share that from 2018, the National Medical Commission has introduced chapters and training on brain death and organ donation in 3 subjects. So if somebody is going through medical school, they go through this in forensic medicine, they go through in the surgery, and then also in internal medicine. So in 3 subjects in India, we are covering now organ donation. Our newspapers have been playing a very good part, and sometimes the news is quite catchy and helps a lot in increasing awareness. There's a lot of traffic in New Delhi, for example, and we use green corridors by stopping the traffic and moving the heart across high-speed roads, and 32 kilometers in 29 minutes. These kind of news make a lot of good reading. Recently, unfortunately, we had an accident in Surat where there were 2 friends who lost their lives, and the families ended up donating organs of both of them. So the print media does help in spreading awareness big time in India. To the right now, this is actually my own mother-in-law, and when we lost her, we donated her organs, and we actually put it up as an obituary. And I now feel that putting an obituary for the donor family is one of the best things we can do to promote organ donation, that somebody has died, but it has been a meaningful death. My tryst with organ donation actually started about 15 years ago when our team of 18 people came back from UK after a 6 months to 1 year fellowship on liver transplantation. And when we came back, we realized that we should actually be pushing disease donor liver transplant. And this is our national liver transplant update, where we for the first time had a lot of well-known people pledging to donate their organs. And as we succeeded, you see these 6 soldiers. This is in one of the leading magazines in the country, that all of them have received living disease donor liver transplant, and they were good enough to get back into uniform. This little boy that you see on your right, he's Shaurya Malik. He was a major's son. He fell off the balcony, and the family was brave enough to take the decision to donate all the organs of a 1.5-year-old baby. So these are the kind of calendars we could see in the Armed Forces unit way back in 2008. And that's how we were promoting it. Again, very happy to share that in India now we have nice memorials on organ donors. The one on the left is actually very spectacular. This is in Jaipur, Rajasthan, which all of you must visit sometime. It's a beautiful city, and it is a lovely donor memorial. In the center, with the Fortis group, when I was there, we started this wall of tribute, where every donor was represented as a star, and we had the name and the organ, the date of donation under it. And once in a while, we would see a family come down, take off their shoes, put some flowers there and touch the star, take pictures. They'll come down to remember their loved one. And it was really touching to see that. And this wall is there in all major Fortis hospitals across the country. And one on the, down below on the right side is in KM Hospital, Mumbai. So nice to see memorials coming up in the country. These are 2 very unusual ways to promote organ donation. And this is our team from Donate Life in Surat. If you see on the left, we have the Indian Postal Service making stamps for donors, which is a very, very unique way of acknowledging their work. And then we have this amazing kite festival, where we have representations from about 40 countries every year on the 14th of January. And as you can see, with the organ donor theme, if you hold a festival like that, we have all these kites going up in the air, spreading the message of organ donation. So kudos to the team from Surat who did all this. Our national organization, the National Organ and Tissue Transplant Organization, they do a lot to felicitate the donor families, to felicitate the best performing states, the best performing transplant coordinators, and our NGOs who have been working. So they have their own slogan competitions, etc., coming in, especially if you see in Hindi on the right. I think those are the ones that are really important in our country to have local, regional kind of language use in promoting organ donation. So we have basically an organ donation day in the country, which is celebrated on 27th of November. And we have an organ donation week, which goes through from 6th to 13th of August. And some of us were concerned that we should try to do this across the whole year, activities, rather than a week or a day. And so in Fortis Hospital, when I was there, we thought about a More to Give campaign. We had 18 large hospitals spread across the country doing various organ transplantation. And our CEO was very, very nice of him to actually go for this. And this is him actually. And we had 17,000 employees in Fortis. And can you believe it that all of us in our visiting cards carried a message of organ donation, More to Give. And that was really spectacular. Anybody handing out a visiting card from the organization was actually handing out a message on organ donation. We got a very nice budget of more than $500,000 a year for 3 years to promote organ donation. And let me share with you some of the things we managed to do. We got hold of some celebrities, and being from an army background, we thought, who could be better than a veteran? So More to Give, here is a soldier, a veteran who has his leg blown off while serving the nation, but he is still trying to pledge his organs. So he has more to give. So why not the rest of the country? So this was the message that we started with. And then we went on to some sports personalities. This is a Commonwealth seminar. So of course, cricket is well known to Commonwealth. And here we have one of the teams from Delhi Daredevils who became our brand ambassadors for a while. And then the hockey teams also. And we spread this across the year from, say, July to February with various events, very similar to what Catherine was presenting about Northern Ireland. And we spread it around with the various campaigns and television programs and newspapers and FM radio, film festivals, etc. And celebrities from the field of sports. This is Deepa Malik. She's a champion in Paralympics. We have very famous musicians, film stars, everybody rooting for us to promote organ donation. And Mass Connect events are very familiar to all of us, and we were doing those all across the country. This is, I think, a very important slide when it comes to the Indian perspective. Whenever we discuss organ donation, we would like to have a critical care neurologists, neurosurgeons participating in the discussions rather than the transplant surgeons, which we tend to do all the time. So the teams which carry this basket of organ donation are actually the critical care people, and we need to put them out there whenever there's an opportunity. And we did that in our More to Give campaign. India has diverse religious groups, and it's very important to have them on board. What we find in this national little seminar we had with them was that all of them say that all religions are not against organ donation. They promote organ donation, but what we would like is for these religious leaders to adopt a more positive attitude and take a mic and actually say that go out there and do organ donation. So far, they have been saying that no religion is against it. That, I think, is not good enough, and we need to change what we tell the crowd. Nothing like an arts festival to promote organ donation, and this is a very famous art festival in Mumbai, where we had a theme on organ donation, and it was highly appreciated. So all part of the More to Give campaign. As we worked hard for 2 to 3 years, the whole team, there were hundreds of people involved. And if you see this nice movie that we made here down below, 10 million views on Facebook. So that's the kind of population we have. And we have one of the highest awards in the country, the Dada Saheb Phalke Award, which this filmmaker got for making this film for us. From his heart to hers, it was on organ donation. And it was a very proud moment for the whole family when our short film on organ donation got picked up for the Cannes Film Festival. And that was a great recognition for all of us who were working in this field. We have the Corporate Social Responsibility Leadership Awards in the country, and the More to Give campaign got the best award for the best health awareness campaign of the year. Now, the question is that if we are spending so much money, do awareness activities actually lead to increased organ donation? And this is something which we need to all be careful of whenever we have an organ donation activity. Please do not expect results overnight. This is something which we are trying to do to change the mindset of the nation. It takes years, maybe a generation to do this. And there's actually a meta-analysis which shows that despite all the campaign, there was just a 5% increase in pledges, but the change happens over a period of time. And if you see the bar diagram from 2016 to 18, when we had the awareness program, More to Give, in 18 Fortis hospitals, that is the peak time where all the organ donations were happening. But I'm sure we'll see much bigger and brighter peaks as time goes on. So our job is basically to keep working at it. And as Malcolm Gladwell said, that hoping that a time comes when there's a sudden upward swing in what campaign we are doing. And this tipping point is what we are looking at. And I would say that to the next generation now, we will be handing the bar like a relay. They're up and running now to take it to the next step. Catherine did show us how some buildings were lit up, and very proud to say that the Archaeological Society of India, after being prodded by a lot of us, has actually started lighting up all the famous monuments. The Hawa Mahal in Jaipur is very beautiful, Qutub Minar in New Delhi, and this is one of the train stations in Mumbai, beautifully done up in green on Organ Donor Day. So this slide I have put out here just to acknowledge that this is something, organ donation doesn't happen on its own. It has to be pushed, and look at the number of people who have been involved over the last year. So the champions that we are talking about are actually hundreds of them who have made our nation reach where we are today, and we still have a long, long way to go. And this is the last slide where, again, this captures the colors we have in Rajasthan. While most people would wear black or white in various parts of the world at a funeral, this is a donor family. And in Rajasthan, when we lose someone, see how they come out in their most colorful clothes to bid goodbye to the loved one, celebrating a life well led by that person. And what more could be better if that person was actually an organ donor too? So a lot has to be done. It could be done round the year. And no matter who does the work on organ promotion, organ donation promotion, every drop counts end of the day. So thank you for a patient listening, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Avnish, for that wonderful presentation as well, and showing us some of the different initiatives that are being done across India and the amount of work that's going in to try and raise awareness across the country. And look, I think one of the questions that has come up, which is to both you and Catherine, is really about that tailoring promotion to particular groups, particularly underrepresented groups in our communities. And first of all, I'll ask Catherine, what have you done, particularly with your new opt-out campaign? With that, you know, how have you tried to target those groups, or has it been mass campaign across the top to start with, as a question?
Yeah, so well, really our starting point is that overarching campaign that we want to target as many people as possible across the board in Northern Ireland. But then what we need to do is to take that and we do want to target specific audiences. So we want to tweak that ever so slightly. And part of that was finding out what we needed to do with that was around using the communications survey. So we were asking people, how do you like to be communicated with? How do you want to be communicated with? What specifically do you need? So as well as the sort of the practicalities of translations and interpretations and read alouds, we will then take individual materials and almost tweak the messaging that supports those as well. So we can target, maybe known concerns within specific audience as well to help provide reassurance and ease concerns.
Great. Thanks for that, Catherine. And I guess moving to India, Avnish, where Catherine's already said that in Northern Ireland it's quite a small target audience, as in a community. But I mean, India has millions of people in the population, and you've shown us a few areas that have been targeted. But I guess, are there any you think that have been more successful than others?
Yeah, Lucinda, you said we are 1.4 billion people,
Oh,
and
sorry.
it's a huge number. You're right. And what we have started is that we have started with the big cities expectedly, but now we are going to the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, and the rural population. That is what we have to reach out to. That's quite a challenge as of now, and we have more than 200 different languages spoken in India in various parts. So this has to be tailored to the local regional requirements. And that is where I think FM radio right now is the only way we are reaching out to them. Also now, if we have a donor family from a particular region, we try to publish an obituary in their local newspaper so that they get to hear about it rather than doing it in New Delhi. So yes, a lot of work has to be done, especially in the rural areas. We need to reach out all over the place.
And that's exactly right. Change doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long time and ongoing dedication to and touch points with community. We know that research shows us that people need to hear it generally at least 10 times to sort of even connect with it. So it's a big challenge, I think, for everybody around the world, and for those who are listening online would be thinking the same as we do that. There is another question that we had on the cost effectiveness factor into things when looking at a new organ donation initiative, and what things tend to be cost effective where you are both from, because as we all know, there is limited resources, and most of us, I think everybody who's on here listening, particularly around promotion, we might get one big campaign, but then you're working on limited resources to try and get that message out there. So I might go to you first, Avnish, on this one, just around resourcing for it.
Yes, resource is something which is always limited in most countries here. And we have to carefully plan out basically, I feel that we have 3 limbs that are important to promote organ donation. One is the government having the correct law, and the 2 other ones both need good funding. One is the public awareness, and the third, very important, is the hospital piece. So whenever we are trying to utilize funds, we must keep a significant amount to train our intensive care people, our doctors in hospitals, our staff from hospital, on how to declare brain death, what are the nuances, how do we proceed further. If we just spend all the money on awareness, we might keep waiting for a decade before we start seeing results. So a very judicious combination of awareness. And now in India especially, we feel that we have made a reasonable noise for the last 15 years. The Achilles heel now lies within the hospitals. And that is where we are trying to work, that we don't miss brain deaths, that every time there is a brain death and the issue is raised and the family is engaged with. I think that is what we need to focus in. So training, end of the day, that is the most important second step for us.
You've just shared with us a very key message, that there is no silver bullet, and that we actually need to have numerous target focuses to try and increase donations. So that was a great message to share, I think, with everyone. Catherine, particularly, you've got a new campaign. I'm gathering that you've had funds, like resources to go in, because it is a law change. But, how do you then continue that once that those funds aren't there, and how do you keep your other program running?
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose that the partnership approach that I had outlined is really key to us. We can deliver quite a lot of activity and coverage through using those partnerships and networks at little or no cost, which is unbelievable. So, I mean, for example, we would do a lot of joint promotions. You know, even just in terms of around organ donation week, getting those partners on board, sharing content, distributing the sports sector, distributing flyers for free at you know, big matches, getting their players to do video messages for free. We would also utilize some of our groups, you know, the likes of the teachers working group. We're the development work, there's no cost to that. We have involved our working groups in, you know, testing we launched a new website there at the start of the year. So our partners got involved in testing that, so that there's so much we can leverage just with the enthusiasm and the support for organ donation with our local partners and stakeholders, which is a really, really big help to us.
Great, thanks for that, Catherine. I'm going to really ask one very quick question because it's the last one that's left, and I don't want that person who's on the line to feel that we didn't ask their question. But you both mentioned schools. You both mentioned getting in and educating early before people are, you know, getting to their driver's licenses, etc. What about resistance from parents? We've said that the kids can learn it, but have either of you seen much resistance or pushback from parents? I'll go to Catherine first, then Avnish.
We're not just at the stage as yet of having launched our resources, but certainly in the preparation and planning, we have been doing a lot of piloting or focus groups with year heads and principals, and we'll be we've taken on board any concerns there may have been, but we're following the approach of other sort of difficult topics that would be taught in schools. So it's very much the same approach, and making sure teachers have support and advice for delivering the content as well.
Fabulous. And Avnish, have you seen much resistance from parents in the school program that you're aware of?
Yes, we have to be careful not to start too early, because some parents do tell us that the concept of death, we don't want, 10-year-olds, 9-year-olds worried about not sleeping at night and thinking about death, etc. So that is the concern some people do have. And I was reading about Australia also, where in one of the schools there was some concern about from the parents on this. So we thought in India that 15-year-olds or class 10 would be a reasonable age to start. At the same time, they can pledge to donate themselves only when they become above 18 in India. So that also we have to keep a track, that when we have these programs in schools, the kids can talk about supporting organ donation, but they can't really pledge till they become adults.
Great, thank you very much. We've had, our time has come to an end. It's been a fabulous discussion from both of you, and I hope that our audience, we had quite a good audience online. I can see that there was someone who said hello from Malaysia. So we've definitely succeeded in having a webinar again that's open to all of our Commonwealth countries, and I think that that's the amazing thing about the Tribute to Life and what we're trying to achieve with the MOU, is that we all get to share and talk and ask questions. And I'm going to pass over to Dale Gardner, who's been instrumental in the putting the webinars together, to tell us about the next webinar. And before I go, hello Japan as well.
Yes, we're not just here for the Commonwealth. We'll welcome anyone around the world. Japan, welcome. But of course, Malaysia is part of our Commonwealth family. But that's yes, two fantastic talks and really, really inspiring. Loving hearing how we take sort of national plans and make them regional, and how we have regional plans that go up nationally and the impact everyone can have. But please join us next Thursday, the 5th of May, 12 o'clock UK time. So you have to work out that yourself, but it's in the chat. We're going to do living kidney donation, We've got Narissa Joan from Barbados and Dr. Peter Hughes from Australia discussing all the living donor, including the Australian-New Zealand Living Transplant Kidney Sharing Scheme, which is very exciting. But weekly webinars all the way up to July 22nd for our inaugural ceremony. The link's in the chat. You've probably seen it all before, but keep them coming and keep joining. This is a masterclass in sharing knowledge and expertise. Thank you, everyone, for today.